the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay respect to their elders past and present. We are walking together to overcome historic injustice to create a better Australia. I especially acknowledge any First Nations people present here today. Now, this briefing is organised by the Iranian community organisation called the Iranian Women's Association Australia. And my name is Peter Murphy. I'm the Co-Secretary of Australian Supporters of Democracy in Iran. So thank you all very, very much for being here at this briefing to update on the very rapidly shifting situation in Iran and to support the democratic aspirations and struggles of the Iranian people. At the start, let's express our solidarity, turn our minds to the people of Iran and especially the families of victims of the repression, those tens of thousands who are in prison, those wounded, injured by the security forces in attacks on expressions of protest and resistance, and the families of those many thousands who have been arbitrarily murdered by this dictatorship for political reasons. In particular, we are marking the 37th anniversary of the execution of over 30,000 political prisoners in Iran in July and August of 1988, and some of these displays speak to that directly. We want to call for an immediate halt to all executions in the country. The dictatorship is openly calling now for a repeat of 1988 because they are under a genuine threat of being overthrown by the people, as was the case at the end of the Iran-Iraq war back then in 1988. So we urge all Australian members of Parliament to join with many thousands of others in democratic parliaments around the world who are speaking out in support of the 10-point plan of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, as presented by Mrs. Mariam Rajavi over 3 decades now, but really most recently at a Free Iran summit in Rome just last week. Given the recent shock of the 12 days of bombing of Iran by Israel and the US, we urge the international community to reject both the policy of appeasement and the path to war, and instead to endorse the third option proposed by the National Council of Resistance of Iran, democratic change led by the people of Iran and their resistance units. Now, our program finishes at 5 p.m. We have quite a few people wishing to speak, listening to speak. So what I'll do is invite them up one at a time, and we have a video to show just a few speakers in. So after the video, then all the speakers will go and sit in here, and we'll have a bit of a good chance at the end to have a discussion, answer any questions or hear any comments from you based on what's happened in this session. So our first speaker is Mr. Nathan Haggerty, a member for Leppington in the Students' Parliament. Is he not here?
Not yet.
Okay, that's good. So now I'd like to introduce Ms. Sonia Hornery, the member for Wallsend and the Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, who's the co-host of this briefing, along with the Honourable Jackie Munro. She's the Shadow Assistant Minister for Arts, Innovation, Digital Government and the 24-hour economy in the Legislative Council. So also a co-host. So first of all, we'll hear from Sonia and then from Jackie. So
Good afternoon, everyone, and can I recognise Jackie and any other colleagues that might arrive shortly. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me today. Jackie Hughes knew we have been long-time friends in our parliament with Democracy for Iran, and we've been hosting meetings. I've been hosting meetings here since 2007. Wow. When the President of the Upper House, Meredith Bergman, retired, she passed the baton to me. Whether I wanted the baton or not, I couldn't say no to Meredith, and I'm happy that I didn't say no. Can I also say that I've had the pleasure of attending the summits in Paris, and the pleasure of meeting, of course, Madame Rajavi more than once. They were wonderful summits. It was just terrific to meet so many different people people from all over the world whose joint interest was about democracy in the beautiful country of Iran. So there is solidarity and a solid purpose from many of us, and those of us from New South Wales who are here from different political groups that support democracy in Iran. In terms of 1988, I was just trying to think of what I was doing and how divorced I was from all the terrible atrocities that occurred at that time. I think I was teaching in the bush at that time, and in Walgett, I think, and I think that that's one thing that we seek to do here, is to make sure that we talk about, even as MPs, to members of our community who are not aware of the things that are happening against women, against prisoners, against people who speak out, and they should be allowed to speak out. And I think it's because for all our faults in Australia, our government, we are accustomed to democracy. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to hand back over to Peter in a minute, but I'd like to stay here for a while as long as I can, and offer my solidarity to you, my unwavering solidarity to the people of Iran, and hope that, as Peter had said, it might be little steps, one at a time, but changing government's positions federally particularly, in greater support for the community and the people of Iran. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackie. Sorry. Thank you very much, Sonia. And I'd like to welcome Jackie to the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter and Mohammed, and for everybody here for having me. Thank you, Sonia, for your acknowledgement. And as a newer member of Parliament here, it's always fantastic to hear how MPs have been fighting for democracy and the types of values that we all share across party lines. That's what's so special about living in Australia and being here in New South Wales, and having the opportunity to represent people that come from all walks of life and have lots of different beliefs, but are fundamentally connected through our individual human rights that we have a responsibility to uphold here in Parliament. I wanted to say thank you to the Iranian Women's Association of Australia, and also note that I mean, obviously recently it's been quite horrific and tragic and surprising in international affairs and in the Middle East, and one of my Iranian friends was saying to me recently that he's got family back in Iran that lives in New South Wales now, and he was expressing to me the fear that he has for his family back in Iran, and just the day-to-day turmoil and uncertainty that they face, and the sense of gratitude that he has to live here in New South Wales in safety, which he takes as a real privilege, but to feel almost guilty for that, given his family is back in Iran and facing that sometimes daily existential threat, and he wants to do whatever he can to ensure that his family back home can live a prosperous and meaningful and free life. So it's these global events necessarily affect us around the world and here in New South Wales. I wanted to let you know that almost exactly 2 years ago in the Legislative Council, we moved a motion. The Honourable Cameron Murphy MLC, who was a Labor member, moved a motion in our House, and I wanted to read it out because this motion was unanimously supported by all members of the upper house and passed. It said that, 1, that this House stands with the people of Iran in their peaceful protests since the death in custody of Mahsa Jina Amini. 2, that this House supports the United Nations independent investigation into human rights violations and the Commonwealth sanctions against those responsible. 3, that this House acknowledges the National Council of Resistance of Iran's 10-point plan for the future of Iran. And I say that to let you know that these issues aren't going unnoticed and that they are being spoken about, and that we are upholding those values on behalf of all people of New South Wales, and to some extent I think around the world. And the debate that followed reaffirmed our commitment across party lines to freedom of expression and to human rights throughout the world. The aspiration of people to leave the world in a better place is one that we all share. And I said on that day during the debate in Parliament that the rights and responsibilities of individuals and the kinds of freedoms that we enjoy are all our responsibility. We in this place should hold these freedoms dear and recognise them as valuable, not just for people in our state and country, but also for those around the world. To uphold the set of values that will make our lives better, we must live them every day, to stand up for them and speak out when they are transgressed. We acknowledged on that day Mahsa Amini, and we acknowledge you here today and the struggles that you and your fellows have in Iran. We can't fall into the trap of moral relativism when we're talking about international affairs and morals and values. The people of Iran and Iranians around the world deserve the same freedoms of any person as expressed throughout the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And the 10 principles expressed through the National Council of Resistance of Iran's 10-point plan capture this spirit. I'm sure all in the room here today know them well, but the rejection of absolute clerical rule, a republic founded on universal suffrage, freedom of speech of political parties, freedom of assembly, freedom of press and the internet, commitment to individual and social freedom, separation of religion and state, an independent judiciary and legal system, gender equality across political, social, cultural and economic rights, autonomy for Iranian people, justice and equal opportunities, protection and rehabilitation of the environment, and very importantly, particularly at this time, a non-nuclear Iran that is also devoid of weapons of mass destruction, peace, coexistence and international and regional cooperation. And I was not born in 1988, I have to admit, but what this job gives me is and I have to say, I didn't learn about these kinds of political affairs in my high school education, even at university where I did international relations. This job gives me the opportunity to learn more, to see more, to understand better how people are living in the world today and how we as parliamentarians can help. So I thank you all for being here today to represent the values that you hold, to stand up for them, to speak up for them, to live them every day, and to ensure that those values are shared and are part of the education for every person that you meet. And yeah, your presence and your voices do matter, and we hear them, and I look forward to hearing more of them today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words, Jackie. It was very heartening when the New South Wales Upper House did pass that resolution 2 years ago, and we're working again to have a new version of the same values expressed in Parliament. And this is part of an effort to get all parliaments in Australia to take this type of stand. Okay, so we're going to have the video now. That's a message from the resistance units, which is something I think that's not so familiar in the Australian context, that these people are doing these things and saying these things. So I'll hand over to Mohammed just to the video up there.
Just move the chair.
ایران مردم ایران برداشت ایران با قانون‌های شورشی رئیس جنگ از لیست سازمان ادامه داره همین جنگ است جنگ مردم ایران برای آزادی در ارزش خارجیت نه و مارا و رسیدن خود اینجا هم به دلیل سیاست‌های غلط مماشات بوده و هست بنابراین ما قانون‌های شورشی از شما می‌خواهیم که حق و حرمت مردم ایران و سازمان‌های شورشی را برای دفاع مجبورشان در مقابل پاسداران جلاد فراتری را به دسترس شناسند و سپاه محترم را در این سیستم به سلو برند مرگ بر حامله درود بر رضای وجودی ایران و ایرانی آزاد
سلام، من سپیده هستم. یکی از کانونهای شورشی هستم. از رشت میخواهم از همینجا با صدای بلند بگم ما مردم ایران هیچ وقت حکومت آخوندی را قبول نداشتیم و نداریم. ما آزادی میخواهیم، دموکراسی میخواهیم، زندگی شایسته میخواهیم و مطمئنیم که این آینده روشن فقط با رهبری خانم مریم و برنامه 10 ماده‌ای ایشون به دست میآید. من با تمام وجودم از این راه حمایت میکنم.
Hi, I'm Shirin. I'm a student from Tehran and member of the resistance units of the Mujahideen. The regime has always tried to silence women, but like Sister Mariam says, in the end, they will be struck from where they never expected. That line gave me a strength. Women in Iran truly have no rights. I still remember being in a school cheer and they told me, girls can't sing solo, your voice is haram. Even today, they use a bad hijab as an excuse to control and punish the woman. In the mullah's Iran, just being a woman is a crime. They are scared of us. That's why they increase repression. Women don't have equal rights, except in torture, execution, and suffering. But we won't back down. We are not afraid, because the thing they fear most is a revolution led by women, and we are leading it. When I joined the Mujahideen, I saw what real power looks like. Women here lead, fight, and become the nightmare of this regime. I'm proud and thankful to stand beside so many brave women and to be part of the resistance unit, a fighter and alliance for Iran's freedom.
سلام، من یکی از همین مردمم، یکی از میلیون‌ها نفری که سالها زیر فشار، تحقیر، تبعیض داره زندگی میکنه. سالهایی که نون شب آرزو شده، آزادی رویا شده و صدای حق‌طلبی جرم شده. من یه زنم، یه دختر از همین دل خاک که دیگه نتونستم فقط تماشا کنم که جوانای ما یا دارن زیر گل میرن یا توی سلول‌های تاریک پوسیده میشن. تماشا کنم که مادرها با چشمای خیس بچه‌هاشون رو به خاک میسپرن بی هیچ دادخواهی. انگیزه من درد همین مردمه، درد فقر، درد بی‌عدالتی، درد نبود آینده. من تصمیم گرفتم که سکوتم رو بشکنم. من انتخاب کردم که توی مسیر مبارزه قدم بذارم. انتخابی که آسان نبود، اما دروغ نگم از ته دل بود. امروز با تمام وجودم از شورای ملی مقاومت ایران حمایت میکنم. از خواهر مریم همچنان حمایت خودم رو اعلام میکنم و از قانونهای شورشی، چون این تنها آلترناتیویه که تنها نقش راه داره، نقش مسیر مشخص داره و اینکه حتما قلبش با مردم ما میزنه.
Okay, so we heard the voices of a few very strong women there, and this is what we need to connect with and be confident about from far away in Australia. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Lfضح from the Iranian Women's Association Australia to give her perspective on the situation, and then we have another video. So please move.
Dear friends and members of Parliament, I sincerely want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to speak here today. My name is Nilu, I'm 28 years old and I'm currently working as a dentist coming from Melbourne, and I have been living in Australia as a political refugee since 2020. And if I'm here today, it's because the Islamic Republic regime has inflicted unimaginable suffering on my loved ones, including execution of one of my uncles and torture of my family, and I haven't been able to see my family for the past 6 years. I'm here today to speak out against the brutality my family has endured and to stand up for the rights of my people and to advocate for the freedom and dignity of the women of Iran. My people have been suffering under religious dictatorship for the past 46 years. And in a wealthy country like Iran, people today are deprived from electricity, water and bread. And except for a minority who are associated with the regime and who are filling their pockets with the plundering of our nation's wealth. The people have no rights to express their oppositions, and if they demand the regime change or the support of People's Mujahideen of Iran, also known as PMI, they will be executed under the charge of enmity against God. Iran has the highest rate of execution in the world, and if the world remains silent, another massacre of 1988 will repeat again. And that's because those who has held the massacre at that time has never been accountable, and they're still holding the power and positions in Iran. Saif Masri, the longest held political prisoner who has been missed for the past 2 weeks, also in his latest letter from prison mentioned that the regime is preparing for a new massacre. After Mehdi Hassani 48 and Behrouz Ehsani 69 were executed, people over Iran in their hometowns and many other cities had they laid reps in the streets and public places to send a clear message. These victims of political executions are seen as heroes. In recent years, the Iranian people have shown through massive uprising that they do want the regime change. And they, by saying no to mullahs and no to Shah, and they have been so clear about their reject of monarchical dictatorship, and instead of that, they want the freedom, they want a democratic and free republic founded on universal values. We, the people of Iran, support Maryam Rajavi's third option, no to appeasement, no to war, and yes to the overthrow of this regime by the Iranian people and their organized resistance. Her 10 points is exactly what the future of Iran wants. And I would like to end with 2 clear demands. Firstly, many of the Iranians and I live in Australia. We expect our foreign minister of this country to condemn the executions of Mehdi Hassani and Behrouz Ehsani, and demand to condemn the executions. An immediate halt to executions in Iran, because remaining silence it just puts the other lives in the death row in danger. And also, more importantly, silence means complicity in these crimes as well. Second, we would like to call all the members of this parliament to support the Iranian statement of 2025. And at the end, I would like to thank for hearing my voice and the voice that I represented today as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Niloufar. Now we have a video message from Ms. Safora Sadidi. She's a member of the Women's Committee of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, a senior leader in Europe. So if you can switch on the video, it's about 6 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to join you for this important meeting. I speak to you today not only to share a personal story, but also in my capacity as a member of the NCRI Women's Committee. It is an honor to represent the voices of countless Iranian women and citizens who continue to fight for freedom, equality, and a democratic future. My generation was born in the darkness of communist Iran, a place where from childhood we witnessed executions, torture, repression, and exile. Actually, this month marks the anniversary of the 1988 massacre one of the most horrific crimes in Iran's modern history. In just a few disturbing months, over 30,000 political prisoners were executed. In July 2024, last year, after 36 years, Professor Javid Rahman, the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Iran, formally classified this massacre as a crime against humanity and genocide. These victims were executed for demanding freedom and justice. One of them was my father. I was just 6 when he was taken from me. A man of rare courage and kindness, he was arrested for defending human rights, women's rights, and for being a member of the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, known as MEK. He endured years of brutal torture in prison. He was deeply respected in our town and neighboring villages in northern Iran. Quietly, through my grandfather's shop, he helped the poor and raised awareness among farmers and workers about their rights, empowering them to stand against injustice. All I have left from him are his painting, poems, letters, and a voice recording on a cassette tape. In it, he said something I always remember. He said, Safura, my daughter, is filled with love for her homeland. Her homeland, her heart is her homeland. And because her homeland is captive, so is her heart. But one day, she will find her paradise in this world and walk into it. Well, I don't know how he foresaw it, but he was right. I did find my paradise in resisting for my people's freedom. But I'm just one among 120,000 families who have lost loved ones in the struggle for freedom. And the executions continues until today. Just recently, 2 political prisoners, MEK members, Mehdi Hassani and Behruz Ehsani, were executed for the same reason my father was. On July 7, 2025, last month, Fars News Agency, affiliated with the IRGC, openly endorsed the 1988 massacre and called for it to be repeated. This is not a distant threat. Today, 14 political prisoners are on death row for ties with the MEK. Iranian prisons are once again full of men and women punished for their beliefs and activism. Yet, despite facing one of history's most brutal dictatorship, a fortunate generation, because we have a powerful, organized resistance spanning 4 decades. A movement built on extraordinary sacrifice and human values, led by women, Mariam Rajavi, who shows us that we can and we must keep fighting. She proves that no goal is unreachable when we pursue it together. That's why today's youth, women and men across Iran are joining the MEK and forming resistant units. They risk everything to shatter fear and bring hope for a democratic, secular republic, a future without nuclear weapons and the death penalty. Let me also clarify the NCN's vision for regime change and Iran's future. Mrs. Rajavi represents the third option. That is no to appeasement, no to foreign war, yes to regime change by the people of Iran and their organized resistance. Let me also clarify the NCN's vision for regime change and Iran's future. Mrs. Rajavi represents the third option. That is no to appeasement, no to foreign war, yes to regime change by the people of Iran and their organized resistance. She has outlined a 10-point plan for a future Iran, a pluralistic republic, separation of religion and state, gender equality, abolition of the death penalty, peace and coexistence, elimination of ethnic and religious discrimination, and a non-nuclear Iran. This plan has been backed by multiple US congressional resolutions, supported by over 4,000 parliamentarians from all political backgrounds in different countries, and endorsed by more than 100 former world leaders. 23 years ago, the NCR established a National Solidarity Front based on just 3 principles. First, First, no to the ruling theocracy. Second, no return to the Shah's dictatorship. Third, yes to the separation of religion and state. And beyond these, there are no conditions for unity. As Mrs. Rajavi has emphasized, there is no need to hide differences within Iran's democratic front. Every society is made up of diverse voices. The NCRI's mission is not to seize power, but to transfer sovereignty to the Iranian people. This transfer will take place within 6 months of the regime's overthrow. After that, a constituent assembly elected by the people will draft a new constitution and submit it to a national referendum. With this, I appeal to the Parliament and the Government of Australia, stand with the Iranian people, blacklist the IRGC, the regime's key tool of suppression, support Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan, recognize the resistant legitimate activities to bring about regime change and freedom in Iran. Thank you very much.
So that was Sephora Sadidi, who I've only really seen on the Zoom, and the message is really clear. So now I'd like to invite Dr. Hugh McDermott, the member for Prospect, to share his thoughts about the situation.
Well, thank you very much, and it's wonderful to join you again today. It's great to see so many friends. Welcome to the Parliament on what was a day where we remember the 30,000 martyrs. That's how I look at them. Political prisoners who stood up to believe in democracy and freedom in Iran. And we stand with them in their memory, and we stand with you. Democracy, secular democracy, a free Iran is what must happen. It must be no longer a pariah in the world community, no longer a sponsor of terrorism throughout the world. It must be a free nation with a free people. We talk about these things time and again. We had this discussion last year. And every year we see governments still trade with Iran, still do work with Iran, still be sponsored by Iran. And that has to change. And the only way that will change will be by the open discussion in our parliaments, both in Australia and overseas, and we're having it in the media, and exposing the lies, exposing the terror which this regime constantly espouses to the world. I have the great privilege of being denounced in the Iranian parliament when I spoke about human rights a number of years ago. Members of my Syrian Iranian community who had been threatened. We know the activities of the Iranian government in Australia. We know that they're active. They know about the kidnappings. We know about these things throughout the world. Exposure needs to happen. So with you, members of this parliament, stand with you. Cross-party, Labor, Liberal, National, those who know the truth about Iran support you and support the work that you do. Myself, I look forward to that day when Iran is free, when the Iranian people can come to this place and celebrate that freedom. And we can openly visit Iran and know we are visiting a free, democratic country. That day will come. The way will come. Because regimes that live on terror, regimes that force their population and subjugate them, never last. And that's what will happen with this regime. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for honouring me and my colleagues of remembering these martyrs, these 30,000 political prisoners, and many others. And also the ones that are still in prison. Those families which have still lost people. Those who can't be found. Those who in Iran today are prepared to stand up to the regimes, especially the women. The women who refuse to wear the veil, that will not be subjugated by this government. So thank you. Thank you for staying with me. You will always have my support. Always. because I know that you believe in the same things I do, and that is a free, democratic nation for both of our peoples. I stand with you and always will. God bless.
Thank you very much, Hugh. I just should now note the members of Parliament who couldn't be here but wanted their apologies expressed to you. So they're Mr. Kevin Anderson, the Honourable Anna Watson, the Honourable Penny Sharp, the Honourable Stephen Camper, the Honourable Mark Speakman, who's the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Jodie Harrison, the Minister for Women, Edmund Attala, Chris Rath, Natasha McLaren-Jones, Mark Curry, Tanya Davies, Jordan Lane, James Griffin, the Honourable Ben Franklin as the President of the Upper House, and Ms Steph Cook. So I'd like to do that. Could I invite Cameron Murphy to come and say a few words now? He's a member of the Legislative Council.
Thank you very much for that, Peter. And I really just wanted to attend today to show my continuing support. It's incredibly important that we all stand up for this important cause and that we fight in every way that we can in the Australian community for a free and democratic Iran. The horror stories that I've heard from people who come here as refugees, who still have family left in Iran, who are suffering each and every day, this is something that we need to all work towards. A fight for justice, a fight for humanity, and a fight for freedom for the people in Iran. Now, I'm happy to support this cause because it's a just cause, along with my colleagues that are here today from Parliament and those who can't be here because we've got both houses sitting at the moment. But we're all in this together, and at every opportunity we're going to raise our voices to fight for fundamental principles of international law and for a democratic Iranian state. And you always have my support. You always will have the support of our colleagues who are here and the ones that aren't today. So I just wanted to quickly say that anything I can do, I will do. And I think this Parliament, the Legislative Council, is the first chamber to move a motion in support of the campaign. And I know Jackie Munro and I have been talking about a second motion to advance that campaign further through the upper house. So we are working on this, and hopefully with that motion going through the chamber, one already and the one that we're anticipating, we'll be able to garner even more community support for this important cause.
Thank you, Cameron, for those words, and we're going to be pushing as much as we can from the community for that resolution in the upper house. So I'd now like to invite the Reverend Bill Cruz from the Bill Cruz Foundation to also express his views about this situation.
Thank you for that. I was just sitting here watching, and I was thinking, we're all born inherently free. We're all born that way. And there's always, in Australian vernacular, there's always somebody who wants to take your freedom away. It could be your father, it could be your mother, it could be your grandfather, it could be your grandmother, it could be your mayor, your local mayor, it could be the police, it could be the state government, it could be the federal government. There is always someone wants to take your inherent freedom away. And when they do that to one person, they do it to everybody. Everybody. And I was really disturbed. Like, that regime is just pure evil. Pure evil. They hide behind the cloak of religion. And they're not the first religious lot to do that. You know, it's throughout all of them. But to approve what happened in Israel on October 7, a group of so-called religious people to approve that is the height of evil. The height of evil. And the result is the height of evil too. Just one bugger taking somebody's freedom away takes it away from all of us. And on the march across the bridge, in a way, there was an inherent threat because the poster went up of the Iranian leader. Many of you would have seen it, of the Ayatollah. And that says, we're coming to get you. We're coming to get you. There's no freedom while any one of us, any one of our children or our family is under threat like that. And yet, that thought of freedom just comes up. You can't bottle it. You just can't bottle the freedom. That thing that kind of Jesus said, the very stones in the ground will call out the freedom. Call it out. That's what's happening. Those brave souls were calling out the freedom. And what can we do? We can stand beside them, but that's a passive thing. We can also go out and proclaim the freedom that we all have. So I'm here for that. I'm here for all the Australian people I know who believe in freedom and who are as appalled as we are here, but they're probably too busy being plumbers and mothers and fathers to do that today. But behind all of this, there's a real cry for freedom, which we need to hear, and we need to make sure we keep that flame burning. Thank you. Thank you.
We just have to take a seat.
Oh, right.
Okay, so now we've come to the point where we can have a bit of an open discussion. I'd like to invite Jackie, if you could just come up here and I'll sit there. Is there any of our other speakers still with us? Yeah, Hugh, please come and just take a chair. So, if anyone in the audience would like to make a comment, a response, or ask a question, please go ahead.
Thank you, and I just wanted to say on behalf of the Global Centre for Social Justice and Advocacy Leadership and the formerly the Human Rights Centre, we stand with the people of Iran, and particularly the women of Iran, who are fighting so hard to see reform and to see your rights observed and your pathway to democracy hopefully realised. I just wanted to make a comment on something the Honourable Jackie said, because it was something that really struck a chord with me, of the importance of greater understanding of the people of Iran, the history of Iran, the history of Persia, and the incredible contribution made by your people to the world, one that is easily forgotten in this current period, but one which we should always try and remember. That you are a great people, you are a proud people, you have made a contribution through the civilization that you represent to much of what we in the West have inherited as our own legacies, including freedom of religion. That came out of some of the traditions from Persia. And that is something which we have always tried our best in the Western tradition to try and emulate. And that's something which I just thought I'd say because I think it's important for us to really understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alopi. So any other question or comment anyone would like to make? Yes, go ahead, Cyrus. You can, yes.
Thank you very much to all the speakers. It was lovely. I enjoyed. Wonderful. Excellent. Honestly, we got 60 years struggle with two systems, Shah and the Sheikh. We have the champions, the political prisoner, execution every 4, 8, 12 hours, a struggle, water supply cut, bread, medicine. We ran away, came to this country to get protection, not this country, all around the world. So, far away land, lost our parents, lost our relatives, to reach to our goal, to save our life. Now we are looking back. What we need, honestly, we need more than that. If they would have listened to this organization, the opposition, we would have get rid of this corrupt regime yesterday, not today. That's the problem, actually. The Australian government, the parliament, they should listen. Is it a faraway land? They cannot hear us. Now the Europeans, they are getting close to the opposition. I'm happy. But we need more than that. Please, as a politician, as an MP, as a speaker, help us to get rid of this regime. I'm one of the activists overseas. I was the activist in this country. Still I'm supporting. I want to get rid of this regime. I want to see my family before I die. Go and help them. Help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cyrus. Any response at all you want to make? You go right ahead.
Sure, I'll respond to that. I'll go first. We want the regime gone as well. You have that commitment. And I thought it was very telling when you read out the list of MPs. That is a long list of people in this House, this Parliament, that supports removing that regime. It's difficult for a Parliament on the other side of the world, and you're right, especially a state Parliament, to do actions. But what actions we can do, we will do, and we have been. Cameron Murphy mentioned the things he's doing with Jackie, Labor and Liberal, right? We don't care about the parties. Our focus is getting rid of this regime. We all want that. And that's what we will do. And that day will come. And I hope you do see your family. Because I look forward to visiting Tehran in that freedom. I really do.
Thanks, Lou. You don't have to. Go ahead.
I'd just say thank you so much for these comments and for making that reality heard in a place like this in Parliament, where it is the people's house. We need to hear these views, and we need to understand why people have these beliefs and have this strength of passion. It's a very serious thing to get involved with another country's affairs, a very serious thing. And recently, of course, we've seen the US go into Iran's airspace, and I mean, we don't really know the extent of the damage. I am so sorry. Those bells mean that I have to go and vote. But what has come out of that for me is a stronger understanding of the fact that there is a resistance in Iran that is willing to stand up and speak up and work for the democratic freedoms of its people. And what I think, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is that with people coming from places like Ukraine as well on humanitarian visas, yes, they are grateful to be here, to feel safe here, but what they really want to do is go back to their homes and feel safe in their homes. And that is something that I've never had to experience myself. I've always felt safe in my home. So the things that we can do in this place, like bringing recognition in the parliament and discussing these ideas openly, is just one way that we can ensure that people are heard so that they can go home and feel safe. And I hope that that occurs much more quickly, sooner rather than later, in the case of Iranians in Australia. Sorry that I have to leave.
Okay, thank you very
much. Thank you.
So, any other comment now or reactions to what you've heard? Yes, please.
Just a question. I understand that the state government doesn't have as much persuasion as the federal government.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what was this federal government's response, especially post-Masa Amini, and was it sufficient? And the second part of my question is, what are the political leverage that the federal government has on the regime? Because, I mean, I know that there's been sanctions, there has been different political conversations. We don't have a bilateral human rights dialogue with Iran, they don't participate in it. So I'm wondering, what should the federal government do in order to have more of an influence on Iran?
Anybody want to answer that apart from me?
I'll have a go too.
You go first,
okay.
and I'll add up.
Okay, thanks very much for asking that question. I think that we heard the voices there saying that one of the things that's needed is the placing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on the terrorist list. Yeah. So we've been saying that for years, and whether it was a coalition government or a Labor government, they've steadily said no. We can't do that for this reason, that reason. The reasons given are, technical. They say the law about terrorist listing doesn't apply to states, it applies to other groups. So, but no one's amending the law. And we ask also that either the embassy in Australia of Iran be greatly reduced or shut because of the actual actions of Iran in many countries as well as in Iran itself. And though they say no, because then our embassy in Tehran would be shut down too or reduced. But I think the answer is surely now we've seen enough, more than enough, to know that the regime just stalls. It's always just continuing on its incredibly negative, inhuman policies, as long as the Western countries continue to recognise it and have a discussion with it. They might sanction, at least that this current government has sanctioned very heavily many of the people in the IRGC, many other people in the judiciary, and so on, but it hasn't taken a step that would be the signal to the people, there's a new attitude in countries like Australia. So Australia's government has been able to coordinate with Canada, France, Germany, Norway, so it's not impossible that a group of countries do this together. So there's an answer to more is needed. More is needed, and we have to tell them that they have to do it. We have to press them somehow.
Yeah, look, I disagree. I agree rather with everything you've just said. Revolutionary Guard is a terrorist organisation. Before I was in Parliament, I worked in anti-money laundering, terrorist financing, drug supply throughout Asia, especially into Australia, methamphetamine, etc. A lot of it was actually manufactured in Iran by the Revolutionary Guard, which shipped it into parts of Asia. They are a terrorist organisation, a drug manufacturing, terrible criminal organisation, and that should be noted and be dealt with. The New South Wales Parliament can influence by openly putting it out there, putting it on social media and what we do. Hence, I did that, I mentioned before, and then got mentioned in the Iranian Parliament, which I have as a badge of honour. Now, the fact that I'm a provincial MP here annoyed the regime. Everything we say against the Iranian regime, everyone notices in Iran. The government notices. What we need to do is still lobby our federal colleagues and our other state colleagues. And this is being done in many different areas, and it also can be done in this area. And does happen. We talk with our federal colleagues quite a lot. So that's one thing. But you're absolutely right when you're saying Australia alone can't do it. We're not big enough. We're not strong enough. But when we work with Canadians, when we work with Europeans or the Americans, that bloc, the democracies, right, that's the one that will create the influence. That's the one that actually puts pressure. And, you know, to be honest, there has to be other ones in the Middle East that also have to be part of this. Iran is an enemy to a lot of countries, right? It's not just us. And so those have to be worked with us to make it as a bloc to pressure the Iranian government. And I think that's the way to do it. I think that we do far too many deals with them. We get too close to them on too many things for various reasons. And they are a regime that cannot be trusted. They're a regime that will constantly say one thing and do whatever they want to do. And I think that's the reality which we have to be up and aware of. And it's by us lobbying, it's by your organisations lobbying that actually makes that happen. When you often will talk to MPs who will have, and state MPs, but certainly federal MPs, they'll have no idea what really is happening in Iran. They're focused on this part of Australia. And they may have nobody from Iranian backgrounds, from either a refugee or other in their area. So you educate them, you let them know. And that's what other communities do, and that's what this one does, and must continue to do.
Okay, thank you. I think.
Sorry, I was just going to say that my experience has always been that parties, when they're in opposition, say a lot more than when they're in government. All of a sudden, all those promises vanish as they get into government. It may be easier for the party of government to say something through the state parliaments and through the federal parliament. So it may be of more of impact for the parties of government in the states to push the feds into areas where they don't quite want to go, because it's more uncomfortable for them, the pressure from the states than from than otherwise. My feeling is probably the states have a good bit of freedom to say a whole lot more than the federal government could say. So it may be this is the very area to squeeze the lemon, sort of thing.
It's a multifaceted approach. When you're in government, something I've learnt the last 2 years, there are some things which we're working on which we can't openly talk about. I work in the Attorney General's unit. I was Assistant Attorney General, so I'm working on key things which I can't talk about openly. Doesn't mean it's not happening. Whereas other people outside of the opposition and different areas in community organisations, they can openly say things that I'm thinking. So at a federal level, what Bill's saying, it's absolutely right. I can talk about the Armenian genocide openly. This parliament does it. At federal level, the Turkish government constantly attacks federal parliament if they try and do that. They can't do that to us. So we work together, a multifaceted approach to constantly raise what the issues are in Iran. Sorry, you were going to say something. Yeah.
Yes, Neil.
Sorry, just wanted to acknowledge, as you mentioned, a lot of MPs, they do acknowledge that the suppression and the brutality is going in Iran. But what I personally would like to request is just publicly condemn the execution, because no one has been speaking about numerous number of executions happening even during the war recently, or even the brutality happening by suppressing the protesters, or by cutting down the water, the electricity, and how that is affecting everyone's daily basis life. And that hasn't been spoken enough publicly, I think, and that would have a huge effect, like if they know what's actually happening. Because when we're having a meeting, we're always talking about it. Everyone acknowledges that how Iran's situation is going. But I feel like if we do publicly mention and emphasize that how that's affecting would has another put one step forward to what we actually want to put the urgency in terrorism and help the freedom of Iran as well.
So talking about things in real time as they're happening in the parliament.
Yes, for example, even exactly. I would say
I would say feed us the dot points.
Yeah, we can do that. Yes. You want to say something?
Yes. Thank you. I want to sincerely thank you, every single of you, for taking your time, joining us for this important meeting.
Event.
We are from the Iranian community here, and we are here to commemorate the 37 years past the massacre of the 1988 in Iran. And the prisoners were max executed to the number that we have, around 30,000 people executed in 1988. That's to commemorate and to basically remember them here. We are here to ask for the international support about the situation in Iran. As you know, for years of appeasement and dealing with the Iran government led to the current war and the nuclear threat by the Iranian government. So we want to really raise the option of the no to appeasement, no to any wars, and end the conflict as soon as possible, and let the Iranian government and acknowledge the resistance in Iran to really go for the regime change in Iran.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Brother Muhammad, what do you want to say for this occasion, for this event?
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us today. Actually, as you can see, this event is happening while they were enduring years of imprisons, and follow that 2 more Kurdish activists were executed 2 days ago. In general speaking, since August last year, when the new president took office, as of today, at least 1,535 Iranians were hanged, either in the public or in prison. But that is really a scary situation, and we don't want that what happened in 1988 being repeated again. So today we're calling on the Australian government to take a strong action against these massive human rights abuses. And also in terms of the current international conflict, we believe a war is not a solution to the matter of Iran, as the policy of appeasement never was a solution. We believe there is a third option that's been proposed by the Madam Mariam Rajavi, which is reject the war, reject the policy of appeasement, at the same time calling for a democratic change in Iran. And today we are here to make that one clear and possible to the Australian audience to hear us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Who are fighting for reform and a free and democratic Iran.
Mm-hmm.